First story. My husband reconciled with me after I cheated, but again neglected me when his father had cancer and died, causing me to cheat again. So I demanded a divorce, thinking my husband would apologize and beg me for my forgiveness. But he divorced me like our 6-year marriage was nothing. Now I'm begging him for another chance, but he acts tough and refuses to even respond to me. Help me. I know I'll get torn apart for this, but maybe someone out there will understand. Maybe I just need to write it all out to make sense of what happened, or convince myself I'm not as horrible as he thinks I am. My ex-husband and I divorced 6 months ago. I've been reaching out to him ever since. I've asked if he'd consider therapy or even casually dating again. I've told him I've changed, that I'm not the person I was when I hurt him. But he won't even meet me halfway. He won't respond anymore unless it's strictly about paperwork or logistics. It's like I'm completely erased. 6 years of marriage, gone. Like I was just a chapter he can close without looking back. But it wasn't always like this. We were happy once. We used to laugh until our stomachs hurt and used to lie in bed and talk about growing old together. I remember that man. I remember loving him with everything I had. And I remember when it started to fall apart. We were 2.5 years into our marriage when I cheated the first time. Yes, I know how that sounds. It was awful, it was selfish, and I'm not proud of it. But I want to explain, not excuse. Just explain, because people think cheating always comes from lust or malice. For me, it came from loneliness. James, my ex, is a good man. He's loyal, stable, and hard-working. But somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling seen. He buried himself in work, endless overtime, late-night calls, always chasing the next promotion. He'd come home drained, barely say a word over dinner, and then pass out on the couch with the TV still on. I was just there, a roommate. Background noise. I tried to talk to him. I tried to reach out. I asked if we could take a trip together, maybe go out more. His response was always, "We'll see," or "I'm tired. Can we not do this now?" And I'd go to bed next to a man who didn't touch me, didn't ask how my day was, and didn't even seem to notice I'd started crying myself to sleep more nights than not. That's when he came along. Let's call him Tyler. He was someone I met through mutual friends. Nothing crazy. Just easy conversation. Little things like remembering what coffee I liked or texting me good morning. I felt alive again. Like a woman, not a ghost. I didn't mean for it to happen. I told myself we were just friends. But one night, after too much wine, I crossed the line. I hated myself afterwards. I wanted to undo it, take it back, and pretend it never happened. But guilt eats you alive. And eventually, I told James. He was devastated, obviously. I've never seen a man look so shattered. And still, he stayed. He said he wanted to work through it, that we could rebuild. But only if I took full responsibility. Only if I admitted I was the one who broke us. So I did. I apologized, begged for forgiveness, and agreed with every reason he gave for why I strayed. That I was selfish. That I didn't communicate. That I gave up too soon. I carried the guilt like a second skin and tried to earn my place back in his life. We tried therapy, but he dropped out after 2 sessions. He said he didn't see the point. We moved past it, technically, but things were never really the same. He said he forgave me, but I could see it in his eyes. He didn't trust me anymore. Every time I picked up my phone, I saw him glance over. Every time I mentioned going out, he tensed. Still, I stayed. I tried. I cooked, planned dates, and wrote little notes for him like I used to. But the distance between us didn't shrink. If anything, it grew. Then his dad got sick. Cancer. James started spending weekends at the hospital. And when he wasn't there, he was with his mom, helping her with bills or just sitting in silence. I understood. I really did. It was his dad. But at the same time, it felt like I disappeared again. There I was, trying to rebuild something fragile and fractured. And he understandably wasn't present. I was supporting him, but no one supported me. I was grieving too in my own way. Grieving what we'd lost, what we were losing again. That's when I slipped. Again. This time it wasn't one guy, it was a pattern. I wasn't looking for sex. I was looking for someone who'd hold me. Who'd tell me I was still worthy of being loved. It sounds pathetic, I know. But when you're starving for affection, even a drop feels like a feast. I never outright confessed. I couldn't bear to watch James fall apart again. I thought I could handle it. Just file it away as another mistake and keep going. But something changed in me. I started resenting how cold he was, how he could spend hours with his mom and come home and barely look at me. I felt like a shadow again. I know I should have spoken up, demanded therapy again, and done anything but what I did. But instead, I kept living a double life. By the time fall came around last year, I couldn't do it anymore. I told him I wanted a divorce. Honestly, I hoped it would scare him. That he'd say, "No, don't go. Let's fight for us again." But he didn't. He just looked at me and said, "Okay." The minute I saw how easily he let go, something in me cracked. I regretted it immediately. But once that ball was rolling, divorce papers, lawyers, separation agreements, it was like I couldn't stop it. A few weeks later, we talked about everything. He asked questions I couldn't lie about anymore, and I told him that I hadn't been faithful for the past 3 years. I expected him to scream, to throw something, or to call me names. But he didn't. He just looked at me with this dead expression and said, "I think I always knew." That killed me. That he'd spent 3 years suspecting, hurting, wondering, and stayed. And I threw it away like it meant nothing. But it did mean something. It still does. We finalized the divorce quickly. I had this twisted hope that he'd pause, reconsider, and ask for time to think. But he didn't. He signed everything without hesitation. That's when it hit me. It was really over. Not just the marriage, but us. The life, the memories, everything. And that realization knocked the air out of me. I was completely alone. The flings, the distractions, they dried up fast. Turns out, people who like married women don't tend to stick around once the ring's off. Shocking, I know. I went from being someone's wife, someone's partner, to just someone. Alone in a half-empty apartment with too many silent nights and memories that wouldn't leave me alone. The bed was too big. The air is too still. I'd catch myself cooking for 2 or buying his favorite snacks before realizing he's not coming back. I started texting him. But he never responded. Not unless it was about logistics. "I'll drop off your mail on Tuesday. Your name's still on the internet bill." Cold. Distant. So I pushed harder. I asked if he'd consider couples therapy, even after the divorce. I said I regretted everything because I do. I told him I was in a different place now, that I finally understood the damage I caused, that I needed help, that I missed him. He replied once, maybe 2 months ago. Just one line. "I don't want to do this anymore." It gutted me. I know what I did. I betrayed his trust. Twice. Hell, more than twice. I was unfaithful, emotionally and physically. I shattered the one person who ever truly loved me unconditionally. And I lied about it for years. But what kills me is that he still sees me as that version of myself. Like that's all I am now, just the cheater. The mistake, like the love, the laughter, and the good parts of our life together don't count anymore. And maybe that's my punishment. Maybe they really don't. I've spent the last few months in therapy. Real therapy, not the performative crap I did before. And the deeper I dig, the more I see how much damage I was carrying around. From childhood, from being taught that love had to be earned through attention, that I didn't matter unless someone wanted me. None of that excuses what I did, but I finally understand why I kept reaching out to people who made me feel visible. James didn't make me feel that way. At least, not for a long time. But I never told him that directly. I just let the resentment grow. Let it eat at me until it became easier to look outside the marriage than to fix what was inside. I remember when his father passed away. How quiet James got. How much he bottled up. I wanted to help him, be there for him, but I didn't know how. And when he shut me out emotionally, it felt like confirmation that I didn't matter to him anymore. So instead of fighting for us, I gave up again. I turned to others. I justified it as survival emotional CPR. But in truth, I was just running away. From the guilt, the shame, and the fear of being truly vulnerable again. Now I see people online call folks like me serial cheaters. Like we're some cartoon villains who wake up every morning scheming about how to hurt people. But I wasn't trying to destroy James. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was just broken. And instead of healing, I bled all over the person who loved me most. James told me I wasn't the same person anymore. That he couldn't trust me. That getting back together would just be him reopening the same wound again and again. And maybe he's right. Maybe I lost my chance the moment I stepped outside our vows the first time. But I don't think I'm that woman anymore. I don't want to be. I don't even recognize her some days. The way I lied, the way I minimized his pain, the way I kept expecting him to carry my emotional baggage while I ran around pretending it wasn't there. I think about his face the day I confessed how empty his eyes looked. I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself for that. I still love him. I dream about him. Sometimes I hear his voice when I wake up. I think about our lazy Sundays, our road trips, and the way he used to look at me before everything fell apart. And I wonder if I had just fought harder, if I'd been honest earlier, if I had asked for help instead of seeking comfort in someone else's arms, would we still be together? I'll never know. So here I am, 6 months post-divorce, alone, in therapy, trying to rebuild my life from the mess I created. Some days I feel like I'm making progress. Other days I drown in guilt. I'm still reaching out. I know I shouldn't, but I miss him, and I want so badly to make it right. I know people will say I deserve the silence, that I got what I earned, that he's better off. But I need to ask honestly, from someone who doesn't know me, who can see this without the weight of my past. Am I the arsehole? Comments. Comment 1. You worked hard to earn your title. Not who you are as a person. Then who exactly are you? Because all we see is someone who lied, cheated, and then played victim every time consequences came calling. You want redemption without accountability. That's not growth. That's manipulation. YTA. Comment 2. James put himself last for years, and you drained him dry. Now that he's finally done, you feel abandoned. That man grieved his father while being lied to by his wife. He bent over backwards to keep something alive that you kept poisoning. He's not cold. He's finally protecting his peace. Let him be. Comment 3. This isn't about love. You're lonely, you're spiraling, and you're looking at James like a warm place to crash during your emotional winter. You want comfort, not accountability. Saying, I've changed, doesn't mean anything when the person you hurt has nothing left to give. He's not coming back, and you don't deserve him back. YTA. Big time. Update. I didn't expect my post to get the kind of response it did. I read every comment, especially the cruel ones. Some of them gutted me. Others made me feel like maybe someone out there understood the kind of pain I was in, even if they still thought I was the villain. I've been sitting with everything since I posted, rereading what I wrote, rereading what you wrote, and trying to hold up a mirror that I've been too scared to look into for years. I want to say thank you. Even to the people who ripped me apart. You didn't sugarcoat it. You didn't let me get away with the narrative I'd been feeding myself. You called me out, and yeah, it hurt. But I needed it. That said, I still want to explain something. Not as an excuse, but because I think it matters. I didn't cheat because I didn't love James. I cheated because I didn't love myself. I know how that sounds, like a Hallmark cliché, like deflection. But it's the truth I'm starting to understand. I felt invisible in my marriage. I felt like I was performing for someone who had already turned away. I told myself I had to be strong, had to endure, and had to keep pushing forward, even when it felt like I was screaming into a void. And when I didn't feel heard or seen, I reached for people who made me feel alive again, even if only for a few hours. That wasn't love. That was desperation. But here's the part I didn't want to admit, even to myself. I never gave James the chance to fix things with me. Because every time he got close, I'd already pulled away. I was too afraid to be vulnerable again, too afraid of being rejected. So I punished him by seeking validation elsewhere, and called it coping. That's messed up. I see that now. I was so deep in my pain that I couldn't see how much pain I was causing in return. But I'm not that person anymore. I'm in therapy twice a week. I'm working on my self-worth, on understanding where my choices came from, on breaking the patterns I've lived with since I was a teenager. I've cut off contact. I haven't texted or called James in over 3 weeks. It doesn't sound like much, but for me, that's a massive step. Every day I fight the urge to reach out, to beg for a conversation, to ask for another chance. But I don't, because I finally realize wanting someone back doesn't mean you deserve them. Do I still love him? Yes, absolutely. Do I still believe there's a version of our story that could have ended differently? All the time. But I also know I broke him. And he doesn't owe me forgiveness just because I finally found my guilt. So why am I writing this update? Because I need help. Not from James, but from myself. From anyone out there who's been the villain in someone else's story and somehow learned how to keep living afterwards. How do you rebuild when you know the worst parts of you burned something beautiful to the ground? I'm not asking for sympathy. I know I don't deserve it. But I'm asking for guidance, for insight, for something. And yes, part of me still wants someone to say, maybe there's hope. I won't lie about that. But I'm not holding my breath anymore. I'm just trying to become someone I can live with. Someone he would have been proud to love if I'd let him. So Reddit, where do I go from here? Second story. Mill told my daughter about my wife's cheating, and my delusional daughter demanded I divorce her mum, calling me a doormat. But I stayed in my marriage, not to ruin my daughter's life. Now my wife claims I ruined her relationship with our daughter, humiliated me at my workplace, and filed for divorce, demanding I force our daughter to apologize to her, so I agreed to divorce. Now my ex-wife is begging to reconcile. My wife cheated on me nearly 10 years ago. I won't get into the specifics, as they're unimportant, but due to the fact that I saw blame on both of our parts, I forgave her, and we moved past it. My daughter is 16 years old, and she only just found out from my Mill, who seems to have decided she was old enough to hear the family gossip, and that she would be mature enough not to confront her. Initially, my wife thought I had told her and came into my office, where I had been, to ask me what the hell I was thinking, and if I was trying to destroy their relationship. She and my daughter have been strained for a couple of years now, with lots of arguing on both sides. She refused to believe that I hadn't said anything at first, until my daughter entered the room and joined in on the screaming that I was too weak, and her own mother had sold her out. The fighting went on a long time, and honestly, I may as well have not been there, for all the good I did. I tried to step between them when I was concerned, but that only ended with some ringing in my ear, haha. Eventually, my wife left to cool off, and my daughter and I could talk. She wasn't happy with me either and didn't hesitate to tell me so. But she wasn't screaming or throwing SHT anymore, so I just let her get it out. She asked me why I stayed, and I was honest that I was no perfect husband, and I decided not to end my marriage, break up our home, and destroy her childhood for something that I held blame in as well. The entire time I was speaking, she just kept watching me with this sad face that made me uncomfortable. But when I finished, she just shook her head and said that I needed to leave my wife, and that the cheating wasn't the only issue. She started bringing up every insignificant flaw my wife has. She brought up my wife getting angry at me because I had put too much creamer in her coffee. For example, just trivial crap. I told her as much, but she just kept shaking her head. It ended up turning into an argument where she insisted I was some sort of victim and made some kind of getaway plan. I kept trying to talk her down, but that was going nowhere. I first tried my wife, but found my call went straight to voicemail, so I called my Mill to inform her of the situation. But my wife had already made it there and planned to stay overnight to calm down because she didn't want to see either of our faces. It's been a few days now, and I still haven't seen her or heard from her, but her mother informs me she's okay, just very emotional. So I'm also scared for my wife. She has had mental health struggles before, and if she's going through that again, I should be there to help. Edit. To the people who have commented or private messaged me to say I shouldn't care. My wife almost died the last time she had an episode, and I don't think even my daughter, as angry as she is right now, wants her mom dead. My daughter told me she hopes her mother never comes back. I'm just feeling defeated and tired. I've done everything I can to keep this family afloat, and somehow I'm still failing. It's beginning to feel like I always do, at everything, and always will fail at everything, as long as I live. Comments. Princess Peach 1/129. Okay, a few thoughts here. 1. Mill is completely in the wrong. It's no one's business to fill the daughter in on family gossip that includes her parents. 2. I'm sure some of this is normal teenage rebellion crap. However, your wife got angry about too much creamer in the coffee. You say trivial stuff, but how often does your wife get overly sensitive about trivial SHT? There is a point where it becomes you managing your wife's emotional outbursts instead of your wife working on her own issues. Does daughter have a point at all? Significant orange 139. Yeah, because that's an odd thing to get genuinely angry over. And it makes me wonder why mom and daughter were butting heads to start. Maybe mom's not just abusive to dad. Most ad 1713. I have to say it, OP. And you probably won't listen based on your comments that I've read. Your wife has issues, and you're covering it up with. But she's a good person, and not answering when people say her behavior is abusive. Let me tell you a story. I'm a good man and husband who has plenty of faults, but about 10 years ago, I got into an argument with my wife, and neither of us was listening to the other. We were just feeding each other's anger. That went on until I spun around and smashed my fist into a wall. That act of violent release made both of us stop, and I will never forget the look of terror on her face when I turned around to apologize. I didn't have any intention of hitting her. I didn't threaten her. I just needed to let off the built-up anger I was feeling in a way I had learned worked for me. Turns out that scaring my wife woke me up to the emotional issues I was having. And now I'm heavily medicated for bipolar disorder, and can have rational discussions, and even arguments with her, and never feel the need to violently release my emotions. If your wife blew up at you about the amount of creamer in her coffee, she's going to keep verbally and emotionally abusing you, and maybe your daughter too, until she gets to a point where throwing things or hitting something or someone becomes the best way for her to calm down. See how escalation of release works. First, it was discussing things to resolve issues, but when that stopped working, it became yelling and screaming. The next thing will likely be throwing and/or breaking things, but when that stops working, I'll let you fill in the rest because, honestly, if your daughter calling you a doormat didn't shake you loose, I don't know that I can say anything to help. Update 1 year later. It's been a while. I probably will regret posting this as much as I did the first time, though for different reasons. Before I begin, I want to thank all the kind people who reached out with genuine advice and with whom I had lovely conversations. I appreciate you more than I can say. Checking my history, I saw that I never updated after the conversation with my daughter about her situation with my wife. We talked, and it went worse than I expected, but better than most of the comments. She never hit my daughter or threatened her. My daughter did bring up the yelling, and I listened, though she said she was never afraid of her mother. But she started to hate her when she noticed how she treated me. Hence the change in appearance and rebelling. She liked that I stood up for her when it came to her new style, because then I was standing up for something. That makes me laugh a bit now, but at the time, I was confused. We talked a long time, and she said she thought maybe she could get over the resentment she had for her mother if she didn't have to see the way she treats me. I didn't much like that at the time, and I admit I argued that I was an adult, and she didn't have to fight my fights for me. My daughter said something like, "If I don't, who will?" And it just kind of stopped me in my tracks, because my only answer, "Sometimes you have to pick your battles," sounds weak when you pick none of them. I still intended to try to work on my marriage, despite the comments. I really hoped to turn things around because of their previous relationship, and, frankly, how much I still loved my then wife. But then she didn't come home for weeks. I don't know if it was my daughter's needling, or the fact I could tell she was upset at being abandoned by her mother at the first sign of trouble. But one day I eventually reached out and asked my ex-Mill when my wife was going to come home and act like an adult, and was told she was looking into divorce attorneys, and that if I wanted her back, I should really work on getting my daughter to apologize. It all felt so manipulative, and I just got so angry. I just hung up and spoke to my own lawyer. After being served, she tried to come back and cried that it was her mental health. But I was still so angry, I just shut her down and told her to leave. Divorce was finalized a while ago. My daughter stays with me most of the time, since her mother moved out of state afterwards, and she wants to go to college in the area when the time comes. But she visits Mill and speaks to her mother on the phone sometimes. As much as I hate to admit it, their relationship is improving since the divorce. I don't hate my ex-wife, even if many, including my daughter, categorize her as abusive. She's the first woman I ever really clicked with in that way, and though I don't love her anymore, probably the last. I don't mind it so much. I have a full life without her around, and a quieter one as well. But anyway, thank you all again for listening, and I am bracing for, I told you so's. I don't blame you, you did. Comments. OK_introduction 19466. Glad she's your ex. Your wife was abusive. It takes a while to come to terms with, but your daughter was right, and I hope you're happier now. Leaving abuse is really important for the kids involved. JT Blackenick. She thought your daughter should apologize. You will be so much better off without her. OP. I'm fairly certain she wanted my teenage daughter to pretend she didn't even know. Which is ridiculous, and regardless of my feelings on the incident, that wasn't going to happen. And I wouldn't want it to. Karaoke 3080. Your daughter saved all 3 of your lives. Your wife was abusive. Your daughter was being abused, and so were you. I'm glad she was adult enough to finally put an end to this madness. I really hope your ex-wife gets serious mental help, and your daughter doesn't have lasting effects from it. OP. From what I know, my ex is finding herself. Good for her. I never even knew she was lost. My daughter is a strong young woman. Stronger than I ever was or ever will be. I am more proud of her than I can possibly explain, even without this situation. She's the best part of my life, and to quote the old sayings, when I count my blessings, I count her twice. Third story. I found out my fiancée's dad died last month. No one told us, and she missed the funeral, so I contacted her brother, and he said my wife knows why she got disowned by her dad and not invited to his funeral. Now I'm at a loss. Hi, I don't even really know how to start this or what I'm asking exactly. I guess I just want to understand what happened and maybe get some advice on how to help my fiancé deal with this, because it's a lot. And I think she's starting to blame herself, which she really shouldn't. So I proposed to my fiancée back in March. Her dad was the only person I talked to beforehand. I asked for his blessing, and he was super kind about it. I only met him a couple of times before that. But we had a good conversation, and I could tell he really loved her. The thing is, I only met his wife, her stepmom, once, that same day. It was brief and polite, but that's it. Everything else about our engagement planning and updates was through her dad. Her dad has another kid with the stepmom, a teenage son, 17. My fiancée always kind of kept some distance from that part of her dad's life. It wasn't like she hated them or anything, just, they weren't close. Her dad would check in, sometimes visit her on his own, but it always kind of felt like he had two separate families. I never really thought too hard about it. It just was what it was. Then in April, while we were starting to figure out the engagement party and save the dates and all that, he passed away. We didn't even know. We didn't hear anything from anyone. No call, no text, not even a weird silence. Nothing. We only found out this week because one of her cousins posted something online about missing him after the funeral, and my fiancée texted them like, "What do you mean, the funeral?" And they were like, "Everyone was surprised you didn't show." She just shut down. I think she's still in shock. Her dad is gone. She didn't get to say goodbye. She wasn't even told he was dead. The funeral already happened. She missed it. And no one told her. Not her stepmom. Not even her own brother. Not anyone. And what makes it worse is, now that she's tried to reach out to people, cousins, her aunt, even her dad's friend, she keeps getting these weird half responses that make her feel like she should have known or been there. Like they're judging her for not showing up when nobody invited her in the first place. She keeps asking me if she did something wrong. She's wondering if her dad was mad at her. I do think he was happy for us. But now I don't even know what's true anymore. I guess I just don't understand how something like this happens. I know grief makes people act strange, and there might be stuff we don't know. I don't want to assume the worst about her stepmom. Maybe she was overwhelmed or didn't have our contact info, though I feel like she must have had some way to reach out. But I also don't want to make excuses for someone who let my fiancée find out her dad died a month later from a Facebook post. It's starting to feel uncomfortably close to full-on evil stepmom territory, and I hate even thinking that. But this just feels so cold. She's devastated, and I don't know what I'm supposed to say or do. I can't fix it. She just keeps saying she can't believe she wasn't there. That she wasn't even given the chance. And I'm angry too, but mostly I just feel helpless. And sad for her. I guess what I'm really asking is, how do I help my fiancée grieve someone she didn't even get the chance to say goodbye to? She keeps wondering if her dad was upset with her, or if she missed some sign. And now the way her family's reacting is only making her feel worse. I want to support her without making her feel like she has to perform grief on anyone else's timeline or carry blame for something that was never her fault. TLDR, my fiancée wasn't told her dad died, and found out a month later from a cousin's post. She missed the funeral, didn't get to say goodbye, and now people are making her feel guilty for not being there. I don't know how to help her process something so painful and confusing. Update. I found where her dad is buried, and got contact info for who I think is her half-brother. When I showed her the profile to confirm, she shut down and panicked. But it did confirm for me that it's definitely him. She doesn't want to reach out right now, but I might. Comments. Unique Assumption 619. I am so sorry for what you both are going through. That is absolutely heartbreaking. She wasn't told and, frankly, unforgivable in my book. She deserves the chance to say goodbye. The best thing you can do is support her. Maybe try to figure out if he was buried. And if so, maybe try to visit the grave so she can have some form of closure. If he was cremated, maybe still plan something for her to be able to celebrate him and say goodbye in her own way. Either way, this situation is super effed up. And she did nothing wrong. The family is seriously messed up for not telling her. OP, thank you so much for saying this. It really means a lot right now. I think hearing someone else call it what it is, unforgivable, helps validate what she's feeling, even though I know she's still trying to find some reason for why it happened. We've talked about trying to find out where he was buried, but it's so hard to even know where to start when no one's talking to her. I think you're right, though. She needs a way to say goodbye, whatever that ends up looking like. I just don't want her carrying this weight like she did something wrong, because she didn't. Unique Assumption 619. I 100% agree you, and she are totally validated in how you feel. This is seriously next level wrong of the family. I wish you both healing, and I really hope she is able to find some way to say goodbye. And I'm sure it's impossible for her to see right now. But she didn't do anything wrong and just may need to be reminded of that for a bit. OP, thank you so much for this. It really means a lot. I think hearing that she's not crazy for feeling this way or overreacting is going to help more than she even realizes right now. She keeps replaying everything in her head and wondering what she missed or what she did wrong. And I've been trying to remind her that none of this was her fault. But I know it's going to take time for her to believe that. We're definitely going to try to find a way for her to say goodbye. Something just for her, even if it's small. Just, thank you again for the kindness. No_performance 8733. This is really common. The first kids, especially daughters, are thrown away when there's a new family. Then they are blamed for being ostracized. I mean this sincerely. You need to call people on her dad's side of the family and gently, but powerfully shame the SHT out of them. Tell them how absolutely devastated this woman is, and ask them why no one reached out. Stick up for her. First of all, you sticking up for her in the right way will really give them pause, and will probably bring them around to her POV. Second, don't be surprised if the stepmother spread rumors and lied. Don't let this go. Make sure you reach out and ask them to explain, because the love of your life is devastated by loss and betrayal. Traveler. She did nothing wrong. Her stepmom did it on purpose. For whatever reason, she decided to be cruel. It's not your fiancé's fault. She should definitely let everyone know the complete truth. That when he passed, no one told her. She would have come. She would have said her goodbyes with them. But that opportunity was stolen from her. You should definitely plan on a way for her to say her goodbyes and celebrate his life. OP. We're working on finding a way for her to say goodbye on her own terms. It won't make up for what was taken from her, but she deserves a chance to honor him in her own way. When she's ready, we'll also make sure the truth is known, because right now too many people either believe lies or are pretending they didn't know. Update 6 days later. We finally found out where her dad was buried, and I managed to get in touch with her half-brother. When I showed her who I thought it was, she panicked and did not want anything to do with it. She still does not know I went ahead and talked to him. To be honest, I expected lies or deflection, but what I got was more frustrating. He was not defensive, just cryptic. He said he knows exactly why her side of the family cut her off, and that she knows too. He would not tell me what it was and just kept saying I should ask her because I would not believe him anyway. Then he added, sarcastically, that if she were even capable of telling me the truth, I would already know. He did say he had tried calling and texting her after their dad passed, but she has him blocked on everything. He also said he tried to make sure she was included, but she made it clear a long time ago that she wanted nothing to do with him. He knows she has always hated him just for existing. He ended the conversation by saying he was calling her bluff, that she does not really want anything to do with her dad's side of the family. He even asked if she ever said she was inviting any of them to the wedding. That part stung a little. I will not pretend to know the full story, but I am starting to feel like this is not a case of one person being awful. It feels more like years of silence and resentment that turned into something cruel. We did get some clarity on the legal side. There probably will not be a fight with the stepmom. The brother told me everything that is needed. We are working with a lawyer, but it will take time. The executor has up to 2 years before probate has to start. Even then, anything she may be entitled to would be split evenly with him and only applies to accounts that were solely in her father's name. We are not expecting anything substantial, but she deserves to know she was not forgotten. Since real closure is out of reach, we are creating our own. Someone suggested planting a memorial tree. We love that idea. We are currently looking for a good starter tree, and she is going to write her father a letter to bury under it. It is not a solution, but it is something real and peaceful she can hold on to. There probably will not be another update. I am realizing that trying to untangle her family's damage might only hurt our relationship. If I want a healthy marriage, I need to protect her peace more than I need to win a fight that was lost a long time ago. TLDR. Found her dad's burial site. I talked to her half-brother. He says she was cut off for a reason she knows, and that she blocked him. We got a lawyer, but anything owed will be split. We're planting a tree with a letter for closure. No more digging. Comments. Vinyl Highway. And, what did your fiancé say? OP. She does not know. I have not told her that I talked to her brother. Right now, I do not see a version of that conversation that ends well. If I tell her, I risk breaking trust and reopening wounds she might not be ready to face. So for now, I am just focusing on supporting her through the grief and letting her heal at her own pace. Tripster. But this just shows your immaturity. Marriage is about communication and being able to say things like, "Honey, I need to tell you something. I was trying to do a good thing, and I think it backfired. I reached out to your stepbrother because I wanted to get information on the burial site, so I could facilitate you having a better goodbye with your father. Your stepbrother told me a bunch of things that I want to tell you. I have anxiety around telling you this because I don't want to upset you, but I need to be honest here and not keep a secret. I don't put much weight into what he told me, but he told me X, Y, and Z. Do you want to talk about that stuff? Or do you prefer to let it go? I'm fine either way, but I want you to know I did have that conversation in an attempt to do something nice and thoughtful for you. Based on what he told me, I wished I hadn't reached out, but I just wanted to make sure you were aware. Daxadreams. Look, it's pretty telling that nobody told your fiancé about his death. She has aunts, uncles, and cousins, right? Are they all blocked too? Or is there actually a good reason why they didn't contact your fiancé? I suspect you won't have a peaceful marriage when she has been so secretive. And it's pretty obvious that the rest of the family is not on her side. Embarrassed_advice 59. Well, now I'm curious why she was cut off. OP same. But there isn't a way I can find out without admitting I went behind her back to find out she was cut off. Hula hoop. For the sake of your future, you have to know her past. All of this is quite weird. Hair like Murda. My sister cut off my parents, and she was actually very much in the wrong. As her sister, who was not involved at all in the issue, I could see the matter objectively. In our family's instance, my dad refused to continue putting up with my Bill's repeated disrespect towards him and my mother, so my sister chose her partner over her family. My sister deemed my father doing this as toxic. You do not have the full story, or even a single piece of it. If you were truly building trust, she would tell you the full story, or at least her side of it. She wouldn't be all secretive about it. OP, every family dynamic is different. And while I understand your experience, it doesn't mean the same applies here. I fully agree that I don't have the full story yet, but I also know that trying to drag it out of her right after losing her father isn't the right time. She will tell me her side when she's ready, and I will ask when the moment is appropriate. Choosing to show compassion in the middle of her grief doesn't mean I'm ignoring trust. It means I'm not turning a painful moment into an interrogation. Avid learnerbot. I get your decision not to dig deeper into her family's past drama, but why did you trust that brother's vague she knows and won't tell claim without pressing him further? That cryptic statement really threw me for a loop. Did he really have some juicy secret stashed away? OP, exactly. That is the corner I am in. Worst case, he is telling the truth, and that means my soon-to-be wife blocked her own brother and never told me why, and now I have gone behind her back to talk to him. There is no winning move here. Either I confront the woman I love and possibly blow up her trust in me, or I support her and focus on helping her grieve and heal. At the end of the day, only one of those options leads to a peaceful and lasting marriage. I chose her. Majestic Fix 8638. Are you sure? I'm not saying that you should ask the questions now. It's not the time while she is grieving. However, it will eat you up. You will start wondering if she is lying to you, hiding something, or if her whole family is wrong. Even if you will have to admit you talked to her brother, it's a small lie compared to her hiding the reason for being estranged from her family in such a way. And building a family on a lie won't make it a happy life. OP, I hear you. And I do plan to get that information, just not now. A week after finding out her dad died is not the time to press her for answers. Grief is still raw, and I want to be supportive, not confrontational. But before marriage, yeah, I need to know. That conversation will happen just when emotions aren't this high. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.